are back. It's the Joe Holka Show, week 12. What's up, everybody? Sorry for the pump fake there. Literally went to go hit the button that does our little intro here, and I see that I'm just absolutely frozen on the screen, which is never fun, but caught it in time, was able to do a quick flick of the switch on and off. Every now and then you got to turn the power button on and off, right? And things will just work. That's just how things are. How's everyone feeling? M. Thompson in the chat, Tommy DeVito week. Is it Tommy DeVito week? We haven't actually gone down that far this year. I've normally been team, let's not play this this really poor quarterback. We'll see. I don't know. Normally, I'm not trying to play that into chalk. I'm not trying to play that against bad defenses or good defenses. We'll see. The DeVito thing is, I think, just kind of fascinating in general. We'll get there. It's an interesting week. Actually, I would say kind of a similar week to what we've had a lot of times this year. We have a bunch of really strong running back plays. We have a couple games that really stand out at the top, and then we have a bunch of junk to try and sift through as a group today. So hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone had a really good week 11. Just a couple housekeeping things here. We will not be doing a live stream on Thanksgiving morning. Really like doing that show with you guys because it's such a fun late swapping slate, all that stuff. Actually going to be on the road at that time to get up to the in-laws. So not going to be able to do a show that morning. But if you're curious my thoughts on the Thanksgiving game, I would urge you guys to go subscribe on either Instagram or TikTok. That's where a lot of the short form videos will be going out. There's also two accounts. So we have the @Joe Holka Show account. We also have joeholka.fantasy. There's going to be multiple videos going across both those accounts for Thanksgiving. There's probably going to be like 4 or 5 videos. So if you're wondering my takes on that game, that's where you can find it. Or just jump on the newsletter. It's completely free. There's a link in the description for that. All of the picks for the Thursday night football, or for the Thanksgiving slate, will be on the newsletter. Appreciate you guys understanding there. But how's everyone feeling? How's everyone feeling? We have a massive delay right now in the studio. That's weird. I'm like a full 5 minutes ahead of you guys right now. Not 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I just looked up and I just saw the intro. That's wild. Someone say yes in the chat if you're hearing me right now. I want to see how much our delay is right now because that's wild. That's new, actually. I want to hear some. Oh, okay, so we're not behind. It's just my camera's late. We got all kinds of things. I'm gonna refresh that, but I think we're all good. Let's jump in, guys. Let's start like we always do with a poll. All the yeses in the chat. You guys are engaged today. I love to see that. Love to see it. Okay. Highest owned player today. Let's start where we always do. Devin Achane. Devon Achane. It's Devon, right? I'm not a name guy. You guys know this about me. Brian Robinson Jr., Cortland Sutton, Kareem Hunt, Jacoby Myers, other. Who's going to be the highest owned player on DraftKings today? Is this one really straightforward, or is this one a little sneaky? I don't know. We'll see. 24-hour delay. Hey, appreciate that. We will be safe on the road. We will be safe on the road. Could have just done a stream on the phone, but probably wouldn't have worked out so well. Jared Brown, Holka, want to say you've won me a lot of money. Love your picks. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. We can do a lot better on our DraftKings picks, though. I'll say that. The last couple lineups that we've done have not cashed, so let's always be transparent about that. But I think the cool thing about, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to walk through the positions with you guys, show you what I like, what I don't like. But when we're actually building the lineup, I'm still trying to get different, right? If we're going to play stuff like the 5-5-5, which I just think is fun, play for $1 million, we want to try and win, right? So I don't want to be in the middle. I don't want to just build these lineups that are going to be really safe. I want to be in last place. I want to be in first place. So I think the last couple of weeks, maybe we've gotten a little bit too far off the board, or we've just gotten unlucky. A couple of things that we needed last week we didn't have, unfortunately. But I appreciate you saying that, man. That the prop stuff is really fun. All the props are pretty much out by this time of the week. A lot of the best lines are much earlier in the week. So if you're in the props world, jump in there. Use code HOLKALIVE so know it came from the live stream, underdog, sleeper, prize picks, all that good stuff. Bunch of half-yard specials. So if you want to start with an automatic win, the deposit bonuses are higher than they'll be all year going into this Thanksgiving week. So really good time to try out the prop stuff too. But we're not here to talk about props today. We're here to talk about the DFS slate. Who is going to be the highest owned player today? Over 200 people in the chat. 56% of you think that Kareem Hunt will be this week's highest owned player. I agree. We're actually going to close this poll immediately because that's the correct answer. That is the correct answer. No Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously, an amazing matchup that we've been targeting all year against the Panthers. I think we can move on. This is a little bit more of an interesting poll next. Top quarterback play, price considered. This is a sub-only vote, by the way. So if you're here for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can actually be active in the chat and you can actually vote in our polls. It's the only way we can kind of fight the bots a little bit. In order to place your vote, exclamation point, vote, space, the number. You'll see a lot of the OGs in the chat getting it right. What do we think about quarterback today? Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, Jane Daniels, Tommy DeVito, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, or other. Tua Tagovailoa. I just nailed that name now. I used to like literally fumble over that one every single time, and now we have it completely dialed in. Completely dialed in. What do we got here? We got some Geno love to start. Okay, fair. My DFS picks can't be any worse than my UMD dogs morning. What's up, Joe? How's it going? Yeah, UMD, tough start, man. Tough start. Actually, I'm curious. What is the... Ooh, we're really blurry here. What happened there? We're just gonna get all the tech issues out of the way in one day, right? Might as well. I'm curious. USCHO Division 1 hockey pairwise. Haven't looked at this all year. How are my Huskies doing? This is what you guys are all here for, right? You guys want the college hockey talk? What do we got here? Pairwise. Boston College, number 1. Okay. Where's my Huskies? We're in the top 10. Number 8. Where's Duluth? North Dakota, number 20. Love seeing them outside the top 15. Whoa. Duluth is 38? Good God. Good God. Shout out to my St. Cloud State Huskies. Get it done, right? Get it done. The clarity of your video is off the charts better than any football stream I've ever seen. I appreciate that, man. I work pretty hard to make this stuff look good for you guys. How much rain is Seattle supposed to have? It is 8:20. The over-under on the weather, I believe the line was set at 16 minutes. So cash the over on that one today. Weather, yes. Looks like there's going to be some rain. I don't see a ton of wind, so I'm not really worried about that. Arizona, Seattle, it always rains in Seattle. Not a big deal. Tampa Bay at New York Giants. Looks like we'll get a little bit of wind there. Still not that worried about it, like 10 mile per hour sustained. Not like massive gusts or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about that one either. I don't think this is a big weather week, guys. Partly crowd. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. We just care about wind. We just care about wind. Unless it's like crazy snow. That's all we care about. We're in good shape, though. Is there any other news that we need to go through? We're pretty spread out at quarterback. Wow, we have a lot of Tommy DeVito votes. That makes me really uncomfortable. Christian Gonzalez, likely to play against the Dolphins. That's actually pretty big. 6 minutes ago. Originally, it looked like he was trending towards not playing. So that's big news. What else we got here? Noah Fant will play. Malik Neighbors expected to play. Adam Thielen should play. Keenan Allen will play. DeAndre Swift will play. What do we do with these Bears? Oh. Is this the week the Bears just go nuclear, like in our faces? I don't know if I can be there for that one. Not against this Vikings defense. I will say the Vikings have just not played well at Soldier Field, like ever. So that one's interesting. And if you're trying to if we're trying to get first, maybe that's a direction we could explore. I don't know if I can get there though. One of the big returns this week for me is Mike Evans. Love Mike Evans. I actually took him on, I believe, an anytime touchdown. And I rarely go for like the anytime touchdowns that are kind of aggressive on the wide receiver side. It's a little bit more difficult to hit those typically than some of the running backs. Let me see. I only took 3 this week, I believe. Mike Evans, Brian Robinson, Travis Kelce, the only anytime TDs that I took this week. So we can feel pretty good about that. Actually, that's not true. I took an AJ Brown. The CTE got me. Speaking of the D1 hockey stuff, yeah, AJ Brown was the other anytime that I took. Swift going under more in receiving yards, maybe. Wow, we are really spread out at quarterback. What's going on here? No one knows who to play at quarterback today. I mean, I think you can make a pretty good argument for Anthony Richardson at the top. That's the one that still stands out to me. We talked a little bit about him as like a tournament play the last couple weeks, or last week in particular, obviously. 5,600 is a really good price for him. We know we have a really good total in this game. Not the best matchup. This Detroit defense, I think, has been very good. They've just faced a lot of volume because of how many points they've scored on the other side, right? So I don't mind the Richardson stuff, especially at 5,600. I don't mind it. I don't know if we'll get there on the main team. He's a little bit harder to stack, right? I think the Pittman stuff looks okay. I think I prefer Pittman than some of the Josh Downs stuff. Josh Downs just wasn't getting targeted as much with Anthony Richardson, but the rushing ability you're going to get there, I think just gives you a really nice floor. I would rather play Anthony Richardson in weeks like last week when no one was on him, personally. Jaden Daniels is kind of an interesting one because he's been struggling a little bit, right? But a little bit of rest. This Dallas defense, I actually think that this Commanders-Cowboys game is a little bit interesting for pace. So I've gone back and forth on that one. Obviously, we're going to get some pace in that Colts and Lions game, like I mentioned before. Cardinals-Seahawks is kind of the game environment that I've been like warming up to throughout the week. So we got Geno Smith and Kyler Murray pretty strong in terms of the votes on the polls right now. Interesting. No one wants to play Tua. What are the others here? Tyreek Hill anytime. Interesting. That's interesting. The Vikings might sign Daniel Jones too. I mean, it seems like everyone's about to sign Daniel Jones. Everyone wants Daniel Jones. Interesting. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit interested in Jaden Daniels, though, believe it or not. And I haven't said that in a while. He hasn't had like that big blow performance in the last couple weeks, but I still think you can make an argument for him having like one of the highest ceilings on this slate against Dallas. I'm kind of interested in it. Tommy DeVito at 4K, Brandon Allen at 4K. So we have some Stone Min quarterbacks today if we did want to get there. I'm not a big Brandon Allen guy, not a big Tommy DeVito guy, but if we have a way to back into a good game environment, maybe we consider it. I don't know. There is a lot to like on the Tampa Bay side of that ball in that Giants game, in my opinion. Already mentioned Mike Evans. Almost put Mike Evans on the cover. I thought that was kind of aggressive. Not a lot of people are talking about Mike Evans today. Maybe it's because of the price. 7K for him. It's a little bit more difficult to get to. But at 1%, he still seems like a guy that we should really be focusing on in tournaments. I actually kind of like the Mike Evans stuff today. Little bit of an island. And sometimes like when I've gone through an entire week and I end up on an island with someone, it is just a nice signal that a guy coming back from injury, obviously it's a hamstring, so it's a little bit scary. But at the same time, they're not going to push a guy back like that until he's actually ready, right? They usually push him a week or two after he actually should be ready to go. So I kind of like it. The Giants have given up a ton to wide receiver ones. I know we're not talking about wide receiver right now, but I just think it's interesting that no one wants to play Evans today. All right, we're flat at quarterback. Let's move then. Let's move to wide receiver since we're just talking about it, but let's talk about the top end of wide receiver first. Top elite wide receiver play today. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, or CeeDee Lamb. If we're paying up for wide receiver, who is it today? If we're paying up for wide receiver, who is it? Salt River Hillbillies is in on Evans. Let's go. I'm worried about how much he'll play, especially because they should be up big against the Giants. That's fair. Maybe we just play both running backs. I mean, I like the Bucky Irving stuff a lot. I'm just not sure. I don't like the idea of just like playing Bucky Irving and watching the touches that we know are going to come for Rachaad White since it's basically split down the middle. We're going to get the rush attempts from White or from Irving. We're still going to get a little bit of passing game for Rachaad White. It's just a really nice spot for some of these Tampa guys. But who do we like at wide receiver? I could have put a none of them, Blackjack. Yeah, I actually usually do that for the top elite wide receiver play. Can we afford any of these guys? And if we are, who is it? Amon-Ra, 8,300, more expensive than Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he goes absolutely crazy last week. Nico Collins, right below JJ. Malik Neighbors, 7,400. CeeDee Lamb, 73. What do we think about wide receiver today, friends? Do we just play all of the Chicago Bears and hope they get right finally? It's crazy because you look across the industry at like some of the stuff where teams have been underperforming, offenses have been underperforming. Like one of the best ways to back into good tournament plays or guys that are seeing volume but haven't quite got there from like a production standpoint. The Bears are all over those lists right now, which is a little bit scary. A little bit scary. Tyreek and Evans. Yeah, Tyreek's another one. You'll see him across those. Obviously, he just kind of had a big touchdown game, but very interesting. Nico Collins, I think, on this list is one of the most interesting because I think if he has one of those big plays, he comes down with one of those big plays last week. I think we're thinking of Nico completely differently this week. And at like less than 15% ownership, I'm not that scared of the Tennessee defense. I think Nico's interesting, personally. Nico and St. Brown to get different today. Flipping the build. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Which 4v4? Man, I don't think we can talk through 4v4s, man. That's tough. Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way on our poll. Okay. I'm with you guys. You normally want to play Amon-Ra when it's going to be a back and forth type of game, right? So if you're playing Amon-Ra, you're probably trying to find some pieces on Indy that you'd really like, in my opinion. High total game, though. Do we have a little bit of recency bias because Detroit just went absolutely nuclear? Maybe, but this is a good spot for plays and all of those things, right? So I don't mind the Amon-Ra stuff. I haven't made it there personally on one of my teams yet. I haven't been forcing in any of these guys yet. I did have a Nico Collins build that I did like earlier in the week. But these guys are tough to get to. So the part of wide receiver that I think is the most interesting is going to be this next poll, though. Top non-elite wide receiver play. This is price considered. We got Cortland Sutton. I put Tyreek Hill in here because I wanted to see where you guys were at with Tyreek Hill versus some of these other guys. Jacoby Myers, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Calvin Ridley, or other. And if you're here for the first time, what I do with these polls are basically like my narrowed down player pool. So like guys that I'm actually considering playing usually make it into these polls. Top non-elite wide receiver play today. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Yeah, love AJ Brown. Not on the main slate for DraftKings, though. We're focusing on DraftKings over here today, though. Over 300 people here. Appreciate you guys being here on a Sunday. AR with Downs, bring back with Gibbs and Williams. I mean, you can get real weird with that game. There's a lot of different directions it can go. I actually don't necessarily love that, though. I like to, if I'm going to be going a direction on a game, I want to know that it's going to be at least somewhat condensed on what could happen, right? Or one or the other. So, like, I think that's probably what I like the most about this Cardinals and Seahawks game. It could underwhelm, but actually, like, see some scenarios where it goes crazy, too. So, like, that's what we want. Like, Kyler is, like, one of the perfect quarterback plays, in my opinion, because you're going to get a really good you're either going to get a really strong game or it's not going to matter and you're not going to win. We're trying to win. So we need guys that can bust out some ceiling. This is why we've been like so heavy on all the Jamar Chase stuff this year, because he has like that next nuclear tier of upside. So I think that we have to figure out, and it doesn't matter which position it is, what are the guys on the slate that have like that next tier nuclear ability, right? This year, it's been guys like Devin Achane, Joe Mixon, those type of guys. And I think both those guys are in play again today. Wide receiver, I'm struggling to find those type of players on this slate, though. Even Justin Jefferson at like 8,100 has that nuclear ability, but more than likely, especially at Chicago, he's going to kind of fall in that like 25 to 30 points range on his upside, you know? How's Joe doing this morning? Let's get it. I'm doing great, Marlo. How you doing, my man? Xavier Worthy for a long one today. I have so much bias from the time that I played Xavier Worthy and got a 0 2 weeks ago. Maybe, though. The Chiefs are another interesting one. Did they just absolutely blow the doors off of Carolina? There's like one clear play in that game, obviously. He's on the thumbnail. But we talked about the anytime touchdowns that I took. I did take Travis Kelce. They've really struggled to defend tight ends. It's really difficult to build teams with Mahomes, Kelce, and Kareem Hunt, but you can do it. You can do it. I think that'll be pretty unique. And that's just like, are we overconfident since we just saw Detroit blow the doors off a bad team? Like, do we think that KC goes out there and puts up a 50 bomb? That's probably what you're going to need if you're going to play all three. Is Juwan Jennings elite? Not with this quarterback. Evans or Tyreek Hill? That's a really interesting one, Swaggy. Evans or Tyreek Hill? I have them really close in projection, believe it or not. But as much as I like Evans today, I think the answer is still Tyreek Hill. Yeah. A lot of Tyreek Hill votes here. Did I miss something on Tyreek? Do we love Tyreek that much today? I was kind of like just on team play Devin Achane and forget it. Do I need to look deeper at Tyreek today? This Patriots defense. Love Achane. We've talked about that. We need like that explosion Tyreek Hill game, right? Gonzalez is playing. We mentioned that. I don't know. Now that they have like Jonnu Smith a little bit more involved, we're not seeing like this massive target share for Tyreek. I'm with you guys. I don't think he's like a massive priority for me though, and he may end up making me eat those words. But yeah, I do love Achane. Tua, Achane, and Hill stack. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the same as it used to be though, where we could just like play Tua, Waddle, Tyreek, call it a day, or even like right now, Tua, Achane, Tyreek. Like, I don't know. The Jonnu Smith stuff kind of spooks me just because of how much he's been used. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that. We'll look at that one in a bit. What else we got at wide receiver? Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's an interesting one. He's one I've had a decent of exposure to in the props world this year. But with Bo Nix kind of evolving over the last few weeks, like Courtland Sutton has been very good. And at 5,800, he's just dramatically underpriced. I saw that price, and that was one that stood out to me right away, especially just with the target share alone, right? So really nice volume opportunity for Courtland Sutton, and another guy that's just like really underpriced today. Like if we're just looking at guys that are purely underpriced for roll, it's Courtland Sutton and then the guy on the other side of this game, Jacoby Myers. Do those guys have nuclear ceilings? No, but they're both so underpriced. They make a lot of stuff work in your lineups that from a projection and like a sim standpoint, they really love Myers and Sutton today. If we're trying to bet on a game environment though, we're trying to figure out like what do we want on the other side of like this Arizona game. I kind of think that Metcalf and JSN are interesting. So I kind of think I'm leaning JSN. He's another guy that like as the offseason like kind of progress was looking really good. At 6,300, he still feels like a really nice bet in that game. Nice target share. Tyler Lockett is really just not being used at all. So like Smith and Jigba, Metcalf, like with Geno Smith is also another stack that I considered. I think I prefer the Arizona side of that game, but from a bring back perspective, really like JSN. 6,300 is a nice price tag for someone we know is going to get a ton of work. He's getting more deep targets now, which we like. Calvin Ridley is an interesting one at 5,700. I've gone back and forth on this one because I don't love the matchup, but another guy that's been seeing a ton of work, especially with Levis down the field. The target share looks really good. Especially since the bye, they've kind of just like really committed to getting him as like the primary piece of that offense that they're going to try and get the ball no matter what. So I think that Calvin Ridley at 5,700 versus Courtland Sutton, I think I prefer Sutton, but Ridley's right there. Jacoby Myers, Courtland Sutton are kind of that top tier of like the volume guys that are underpriced. And then I think you're trying to figure out which of these upside guys you want to get in. Is it Nico Collins? Is it Tyreek Hill? Someone like that, Mike Evans. Smith and Jigba, we can probably put in that category of guys I'm trying to make work. If you're just coming in here, we haven't touched on running back yet. We'll get to there shortly. Quarterback seems like if you're just going straight projection, Anthony Richardson's a tough one to beat. I just don't know if I want to run into the ownership in tournaments where he's at right now. But yeah, I mean, point per dollar 5,600, he's probably the best play on the board. I think Geno is right there. I think he's right there just to get access to that like Seattle Arizona game. I like Kyler as well. He's just more expensive. Jaden Daniels at 7K if you can get there. I think this is like one of the weeks where Jaden Daniels probably should be higher owned than he is. That Washington and Dallas game shapes up really well for plays. There's a lot of ways to go at quarterback today. We got the cheap guys, obviously. We got DeVito. We got Brandon Allen. Got both of those guys. DeVito run a little bit. I don't think I played him once last year. But at 4K, maybe he's the piece you need to win $1 million today. Maybe. Who are the Arizona pieces you like besides Kyler? Because I've gotten burnt by all of them this year. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think if you're going to play Kyler, it's totally fine to play Harrison. And also, if you really wanted to pay up at tight end, I think that's fine too. I think if you're playing Kyler, you can double it with McBride and Harrison. Bring back with the JSN. That's like one of the core builds I've actually messed around with a lot this morning. Puka, Ladd, Connor, or Nico, JSN, B-Rob. Matt McClain just wants to go through all of the 4v4s and the 3v3s today. I do have an under on Puka today, which I'm a little nervous about. Braylon Allen is a lot better than DeVito. Better offensive line. That's fair. Appreciate you, Joe. DJ Moore. Yeah, all of the Chicago guys are projecting as like they should have had bigger games in terms of opportunity than they have. So you're kind of betting on like that reverse to the mean at some point. These Chicago guys are going to go off. Is it against Minnesota defense? I don't think so. But they're on my list every week as guys that like are seeing volume but haven't broken out yet. It's really tough to figure those guys out. Where do I have Jennings ranked with Purdy out? Jennings is not on my core list today. No. Get a lot of Tyreek Hill love here. Interesting. We'll keep talking about wide receiver, but let's get to running back quickly. So I've been enjoying kind of spending a little bit more time on our roster builds. Top running back play today: Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Brian Robinson Jr., Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, or other. Is this the week that no one's going to play Christian McCaffrey and he goes crazy finally? I don't know. Against Green Bay. With no Purdy. I would not be shocked. We're not getting a massive ownership discount, still around 20% in small field stuff. We got to spend $1,000 more to get from Achane to McCaffrey. Top running back play today. What do you guys think? Caleb Williams might see ghosts today. Maybe. Another one of those guys that's had a few really good games, but also mostly bad games. I have the top 3 of my starting lineup today. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. I have an anytime touchdown on Brian Robinson. Would love to see him score for you. In Kareem, we trust. No Lions running backs. The Lions are difficult. The Lions are really fun in the props market. The Lions are not as fun in DFS to me. Not this week. If you really want to try and find some leverage, I think that you can make an argument for someone like Jahmyr Gibbs for sure. We haven't really talked a ton about leverage today. I think at quarterback, it's probably paying up for like one of these high totals, right? So it's a Mahomes or Goff. I actually think that's interesting. Kyler Murray, I think in that game is one that I keep coming back to at 6,200 in that Seattle game, just getting access to that game, but a little bit of a different direction. So I think the contrarian move at quarterback is probably that direction. Or if you really want to get weird and play one of these 4K guys, you're not going to get them at like crazy low ownership. Maybe sub 10%. You should probably get sub 10%, but not sub 5 on those guys. Wide receiver, I mean, the leverage to me is Mike Evans. If no one wants to play Mike Evans, he might be the first one in our lineup today. Maybe I'm missing something. I love playing these guys coming back from injury, though, with an ownership discount. The target share that Mike Evans had with no Godwin before he got hurt was completely insane. It was like over 50% target share. I looked at it because he's in one of my videos from early in the week. The red zone usage and I think it was the end zone targets. Like 50% of the end zone targets went to Evans when Godwin hasn't played this year. So like Evans might be a complete smash at 7K. I don't mind it. And I like the running backs in that game too. So like the Tampa Bay stuff looks pretty good to me. Other wide receivers for leverage. You could flip the build, go someone like Justin Jefferson in a tough matchup. No one's going to play JJ. I think that's fine. Both the Minnesota guys are going to be really low owned today. You could go to like a Malik Neighbors at like 7,400. He feels too expensive with like DeVito at quarterback, who's just really not going to be allowed to pass a ton. We haven't seen him have like a big pass attempt game. We'll see. And then I think you're trying to pick between some of these Seattle guys. I think the Marvin Harrison Jr. is a nice leverage play today. I don't think many people are going to go there. CD Lamb, Nico Collins, if you want to pay up a little bit more, you're going to get like a decent ownership discount on those guys. But the leverage to me seems pretty clear with Mike Evans. Running back, I'm not getting as weird with, I don't think. If you did want to kind of get weird at running back, maybe it's one of these Detroit guys. I don't think they're going to be heavily owned. Jonathan Taylor stands out at 7,100. But if we're talking about like the best plays at running back, it seems pretty obviously to be Kareem Hunt and Devin Achane to me. Kareem Hunt, they're probably just going to like give him another 20, 25 touches against the worst defense in the league at defending the run. Massive team total. No Pacheco yet. There's really not a ton here to poke holes in. 5,700. He's the best play on the slate. Devin Achane at 7,500. You can make an argument that he has just as high of a ceiling as CMC right now, and he's $1,000 cheaper. So, any direction that this game goes, Devin Achane is going to be involved. There's really not a bad thing to say about either of those guys. So, like, if there's two locks on the slate, if you want to get weird with the rest of your lineup, Kareem Hunt and Devin Achane don't seem like the ones that I would really get off of personally. If you wanted to play three running backs today, I actually think that James Conner is kind of interesting. I keep coming back to this Arizona game on which direction I want to go. But I think it's interesting. The Seahawks team cannot defend the run. I have another prop with him from early in the week, I believe. Yeah, I have a James Conner over on 67.5 that I took on Monday. I'm always curious to see what those made it to. I'm going to check that quickly. So James Conner on underdog is 68.5. Didn't get a lot of movement there. I'm going to eat my own words. What else did I take? I took Devin Achane, 65.5. What is Achane at? 66.5. Ooh, this is making me nervous. Maybe I'm fake sharp right now. Not a lot of movement on some of my favorite plays today. Kelsey. Not a lot of movement. I might be fake sharp. Justin Herbert. There's got to be movement on Herbert's over. Got to be movement on Herbert's over. Okay, 254.5. We got a nice little 240.5 from Herbert early in the week, which was cool. Abdullah. Haven't played Abdullah since like 2015. But yeah, there's really not a lot of bodies left for the Raiders right now. What's up, DJ Shane? How we doing, man? Best wide receiver punts. Yeah, if we're going to pay all the way down for wide receiver, what do we want to do here? The Myers and Sutton, like that 5K range is just so strong. I think Noah Brown's actually kind of interesting at 4,200. He's a guy we've like continued to go after on the cheaper side of things. If you're trying to get Jaden Daniels in there, the targets have just looked really good. So I think Noah Brown is interesting on the cheaper side of wide receiver. How expensive is Rome? One of these Bears is going to do it for us eventually. 4,800. So he's not super cheap. Noel, what's up, man? $9.99 live from the Virgin Islands. Good morning. Jeez, dude. How much did you win the last couple weeks? You're just in the Virgin Islands now? Jeez. What do you like today, Noel? How rich, man? Kendrick Bourne is the value. Yeah, now I just don't know what to do with those wide receivers after we had some booty last week. I might not be there for that one. Danny Cutlets, Tracy and Neighbors, Evans bring back. Oof. Noel, talk me off the ledge. Can you play these 4K quarterbacks today? That's like one of my main decision points right now. And normally I don't play those guys. There's just a bunch of mid-range guys that I want to make work, and I want to play Achan. Sticking with Booty, yeah. Danny Cutlets. Hunt is the free square. I agree. Hunt under or over 50% owned. Yeah, I mean, I think in smaller field stuff, like really small fields, yeah, you'll see him close to 40. But I mean, some of the larger field stuff, you still might see him at like 35. Baker stacks. Dude, I love that because I'm obsessed with Mike Evans today. What else are you playing with him? Baker's kind of interesting. Let me take a look at Baker quickly. Do we think we get any pushback from the DeVito side of the ball? That's my concern. Ton of Allen both sides. Johnny Mack seems to be on Allen today, which is kind of interesting. Adding Bucky Irving, maybe some Cade Otton. No one wants to play Cade Otton today, huh? What is his price now? $5,500 for Cade Otton. Whoa. The Bucks Giants game, like for whatever reason, keeps coming back to my forefront this morning. Baker, Evans, Bucky. Could do that. Is Bucky seeing enough work in the passing game for that? 5,300 for Bucky looks pretty good. Oh yeah, he's getting way more targets than I thought, actually. It's just so annoying to watch like Rachaad White eat so much usage. Like honestly, both these guys for their prices, can you play both? Are you a crazy person to play Rachaad White and Bucky? Because they're basically splitting their ownership down the middle, or their usage. Bucky can't pass block at all as White plays as little as he does. Okay. Baker, Irving, Evans, then interchanged White. Fair. Okay. Too much money? Too much money for White and Irving together? I don't know. Probably just have to not play Rachaad White and just close your eyes. But yeah, I don't know. Both in small field, maybe. We used to do that back in the day with the Saints running backs. There's been some weeks this year you definitely could have done it with the Detroit backs. See, this is what I do on Sunday mornings. I guess talk myself into like a different weird roster construction. Kareem Hunt's a lock. I'm with you. I think we got to figure out this Bucks Giants game, guys. So we're gonna have to dig a little bit deeper into that here in a sec. I just don't know what to play on the Giants side. I guess it's probably Tracy, right? You just play DeVito naked on the other side. Do we hate that idea? Yeah, the Giants, when they aren't getting pressure, have really struggled on defense. Interesting. Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out. The Tommy DeVito stuff unlocks basically everything else we'd want. So that's what's, I guess, somewhat interesting. Virtually unowned. I agree. Baker, Irving's, Evans, then interchanged White. I'm going to think about that. Love the Ember mug too. Use it every day. Yeah, I've actually ruined 2 of them. I put 2 in the microwave. That's how like distracted I get sometimes. This is a heat check, Noel, with the Baker stuff. No one's playing Baker today. Love Evans. I mean, if I love Evans and I love Bucky Irving, there's a lot to like here. Maybe I just need to like stop thinking about this DeVito play and think a little bit more about the Baker side of it. White gets more receptions. Fair. That's fair. Play both in a small field, maybe. Okay, let's keep moving here. Let's talk through tight end quickly. Interesting tight end week. I know there's a lot of people that are going to try and play two in their rosters. I just love the wide receiver, or sorry, the running backs a little bit too much, I think, to do that, but maybe that's optimal. Maybe that's optimal. What do you guys think about tight ends? Hunter Henry, Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, Luke Schoonmaker, or other? Exclamation point vote, space the number in order to place your vote. You guys know the drill. It's week 12. You guys know how to vote in polls by now. If you're here for the first time, hit that subscribe button. We do this every single Sunday morning at 8 a.m. CST. Most of the prop betting stuff goes out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts throughout the week. So all of our bets are pretty much locked at this point. We use our Sunday mornings to talk through the DFS slate. McBride finally catches a TD. That's the other side that I'm still considering. Like maybe the play is just to jump into that Arizona game and stop overthinking this Bucks game. That might be a play. It makes me a little bit nervous that like everyone wants to run into Jacoby Myers and Cortland Sutton. Like that should be the week where we just, you know what I mean? Try and get a little bit different at wide receiver. What do we think at tight end, friend? A lot of others. What's going on here? Okay. We got a Kittle vote in there. We got a Laporta vote in there. Kelce is just in a good 9F. What does that mean? Position not to play in cash. I mean, Kelsey's in a great spot for sure. I took a Kelce anytime touchdown again. He'll probably bury me again like last week. Jonnu, okay, that's fair. Jonnu's getting a ton of work. If you like the Dolphin stuff, I'm with you. Schoonmaker at 2,500. 10 targets last week at 2,500. Wow. You could probably do some weird stuff with your roster if you play Schoonmaker and Tommy DeVito, huh? Kittle gonna block all day, maybe. Yeah, I'm not that interested in Kittle today. Joe, you've been going to Vikes Holmes games this year? Every game. Every game. If you see me at a Vikings game, come say hi. It makes me feel cool. We actually have like a crazy amount of Minnesota people that watch these shows on Sunday morning. It's pretty cool. All right, tight ends. If we are going to go all the way up to Travis Kelce, I could see it being like one of the pieces that we really need today, right? The target share has been super strong, obviously. Amazing matchup. This Panthers defense has given up a ton of touchdowns in particular to tight ends. Massive team total. All the things we want at tight end. 5,800. Like him versus like these wide receivers, right? What do we think about Kelce versus like the wide receivers in that price range? So if we're staring at Cortland Sutton, if we're staring at Jacoby Myers in kind of the same range, Kelce we still have at like a 28 or so point ceiling. Wide receiver, I mean, you can make an argument that his ceiling is higher than Cortland Sutton and Jacoby Myers. I don't hate it. So then you got to ask yourself if you're okay with playing Schoonmaker at 2,500, basically, is what that comes down to. Hunter Henry, though, at 4K, he's another one that just seems really underpriced. He's the one that's really seeing like the most consistent work from Drake May. So I think that's kind of interesting. Paying up, prefer McBride. I do like the McBride stuff with Kyler. I'm with you. I don't think a lot of people are going to play McBride today. I still think he'll be like sub 10% in that game environment, which is interesting. My concern is that that game is just going to go over owned, and we're not going to get the benefit of like how I talked about the game. I think it could go one of two ways. Like it could be really low scoring or it could be really high scoring. I don't think it'll be somewhere in the middle. And even if we get the high scoring outcome from this Seattle and Arizona game, like we're going to see like DK Metcalf at 17%. We're going to see like Jackson Smith and Jigba at 20%. This seems like the cool game to attack that everyone wants to attack, that we're going to flip the cards over and the ownership is just not going to look very good. So that's my concern with that game. We've been doing this long enough, right? So by the time we get to Sunday, I can tell you like who the cool kid games are. You know what I mean? Like what is the cool GPP game to attack? It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that like you're watching all this content. Like by the time you get to this show on Sunday morning, you've probably watched a few other things, read a few other articles, and like everyone's just talking about this Arizona and Seattle game, right? Doesn't mean that it can't hit. It just means that like that's the game that probably gets out of hand from an ownership perspective by the time we get to this day, right? So we typically have like in those situations, like we need to find some ownership discounts on these higher total games. So we're going to still see Detroit and Indy, highest total by far. Like in that game though, ownership wise, the only thing that's really popping for over 10% is Amon-Ra. And then Richardson, right? Richardson's and Amon-Ra. So like no one's going to play Goff at 6,600. No one knows really what to do with Pittman and Downs. So like that game is interesting because there's a lot of different directions it can go. Like I said, there's a lot of ways they can get to that point total, which is actually not what we want to target. So like I actually don't like a lot of the games that are like the most popular right now. This Miami game, there's some outs there. This feels like a game like I'm kind of talking myself into Tampa Bay and New York Giants. Talking myself into it because I think that's a game that no one's going to play, where there's, I guess, a lot of guys that I like more than the field. So maybe I'm just completely wrong. But like some really strong running back plays. We got Malik Neighbors at no ownership. We got like Mike Evans at no ownership. And Mike Evans is like one of my favorite leverage plays on the slate. We have basically a free square running back to do whatever we want with some of these other parts of our lineup. I think we got to get to this roster build, guys. I'm getting excited, but let's go to our favorite poll of the day. Favorite game stack. Detroit at Indy, Arizona at Seattle, New England at Miami, Dallas at Washington, San Francisco, Green Bay, KC at Carolina, Tampa Bay at New York Giants, or other. What is our favorite game stack today? Best poll of the day. If you've been sitting there just listening to this in the background, need you to jump in the chat and vote for this one. This is a big one. We're going to play this roster in the 555 milli on DraftKings. One of these days, we're going to win $1 million, or we're just going to lose every cent. I'm okay with both scenarios. How healthy is Malik? That's a good question. Let's see if we can find the most recent news on Malik Neighbors. Someone else asked about news earlier, or weather earlier. I'm not that concerned about the weather in Arizona, Seattle. It looks like just rain. We got a little bit of wind in this Tampa Bay New York Giants game. Neighbors in that groin injury, that actually does make me kind of nervous. I'm not as nervous about like the hamstrings and stuff. When someone comes back from a hamstring, they usually are in a pretty good spot by the time they get there. But like an injury that was added late in the week with a groin, that makes me nervous. Yeah. Not as interested in that. What do we like here? Wow, you guys are with me on Tampa Bay. Let's go. We just got to figure out what to do. We got to figure out what the heck to do with these running backs too. Jeez, like What's crazy is like Rachaad White keeps getting there through the air. Guy's 4 receiving touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. He's not getting any work on the ground. But like it couldn't be split more evenly between those guys. Like good luck picking one. Very interesting. Very interesting. Like if you were to tell me that we were going to get all of these running back touches from a couple of these guys, right? And they're going to be unowned. I don't hate it. Like you're getting in Kareem Hunt either way, right? I'm kind of talking myself into playing both these running backs. We got to get weird somehow. Baker, Evans, Bucky. Yeah, I don't hate it. Tampa Bay overstack. I think that's the direction we're going on this roster. Tyrone Tracy in a decent spot. I agree. Yeah, I mean, they're going to run the ball a ton. Just play all the running backs in that game. Yeah, we could just avoid the Tampa Bay running side if we wanted to. We could avoid it. What's kind of an interesting split, and shout out to Rich Rebar for this one. I remember him talking about it earlier in the week. The Rachaad White stuff that's kind of interesting is like who's actually affected from a target share perspective the most when Mike Evans is in? It's actually Rachaad White. So if we see a little bit less usage in the passing game for White, then maybe that's like the negative correlation. So probably can't play Evans and Rachaad White on the same team. So that's kind of interesting. There's still no Godwin there, right? But I don't know. I'm not completely opposed to it, but that's something that we should keep in mind. We love Rich. Yes, we love Rich Rebar. Bucky Irving instead. Maybe. Okay. Let's build the roster. Tampa Bay at New York Giants. Let's jump in here. This is all I have so far on the team. Tell me I'm wrong. Kareem Hunt and Mike Evans to start. Shocker. Before we jump into this roster build, though, if you guys haven't checked out Sleeper Underdog Prize Picks, you guys can use code HOLKA live. You'll get your half yard free square. So you can start off with a win automatically. Get that deposit bonus up to $1,500 on Sleeper, $1,000 on Underdog. Prize Picks is going to give you $50 as soon as you play your first 5. So you get that instant bonus, which is pretty cool. A lot of good stuff there. Make sure you guys use code HOLKA live if you want in on the action. Let's figure out what we want to do at defense here. Like what is our placeholder defense today? What do you guys think? What is our placeholder defense? So like doesn't have to be the cheapest, doesn't have to be the highest owned. A lot of people are going to play Tampa Bay against DeVito, obviously, which isn't the worst idea. Minnesota's expensive. Don't hate that. That Bears offensive line is absolutely horrendous. Chiefs against the Panthers, I think, is interesting too on the expensive side. If we're not playing Tampa Bay defense, maybe we leverage that with the DeVito team. I don't know. Green Bay defense, I think Green Bay is solid today. Yeah, that's a good one. Yep, I could say Green Bay at 2,800 seems like a good placeholder. Let's do that for now. All right. We got to figure out what we're going to do at quarterback here. And we got to figure out if we want to play both of those running backs. This is kind of like a crazy idea, but where do we think the usage is going to come in this Tampa Bay game? I just want to see what a team looks like with Rachaad White and Bucky and Evans. So like overstacking Tampa Bay, this would be a DeVito team. 4K. So like something like that. What does that leave us with at salary? If we get real crazy with that, what does that leave us with at salary? And then we got to see if we have any. What's unfortunate is all the late swap stuff. I guess we would have Packers D technically late. We have no Arizona, Seattle so far. We have no Denver, Las Vegas. I don't mind the idea of Travis Kelce's still going to be extremely high owned in this spot. Kelce with Hunt is an interesting dynamic, though. Just hoping that we get a lot of that usage together. High total. Kind of interesting. Take Mike Evans out. Maybe. Maybe. Abdullah or Bucky. I like Bucky more than Abdullah by a good margin. Houston versus Levis. That's an interesting one, too. We'll get there. I still kind of want to get to the Vikings D against the Bears, personally. All right, so we have a decent amount of salary. If we wanted to get to Kelce, I think we can on this roster. So let's just put him in for now. So we got Kelce and Hunt scoring all the touchdowns in that game. We still have so much salary to work with. We have to figure out what is our ceiling outcome at wide receiver today that we can afford. You know what I mean? Or else we should just play Baker. But if we're playing DeVito, is there enough upside with Malik Neighbors? It's a big question. It's a big question. If you were Tommy DeVito, how many touches would you force to Malik Neighbors? Probably a lot. Probably a lot. Tampa Bay's really struggled against outside wide receivers, which is kind of interesting. Neither defense is any good. That's why I'm like kind of like trying to figure out the best way to find the upside in this one, right? Take DeVito out. I'm open to not playing DeVito. I just want to see what does it get us to here, right? What is like the high upside plays that we want to make sure we get in here? Like we're flipping the build a little bit. We can get Amon-Ra in at 8,300. That could be our access to that game. We could get Amon-Ra in pretty easily. We could get a Nico Collins. Nico Collins is the one that I kind of keep coming back to here. I don't think we can get in both. We definitely can't, obviously. We get Nico in, we got 6,400 left. That leads us to like a Jackson Smith and Jigbo, which is interesting. Don't hate it. If we play Neighbors and just overstack that game, we got 6,600, so that could get us to a DK Metcalf if we wanted it. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. No one's going to play Justin Jefferson today. We talked about that. Tyreek Hill against New England. Somewhat interesting. We could probably fit in Tyreek if we wanted him. My problem is I don't love a lot of the high-end wide receivers today. I guess that's kind of the problem. It's kind of the problem with this build in particular. Nico's going to smash today. Love Nico today. I'm with you. I love me some Nico today as well. So if we went with Baker instead, it gets us more to this mid-range at wide receiver. So that's like what an optimal would probably push you towards. Like then you can play basically any of these like Jacoby Myers, Cortland Sutton type of plays. Noah Brown at 4,200 still staring me in the face is kind of interesting. Roma Dunze at 4,800 I think is super interesting. Look at that volume. Do we want to get anything to Tommy DeVito, though? If we went to that direction, like Neighbors seems like the one that no one's going to play. Wandale Robinson, it's just like, what's the upside there? Great matchup. I kind of think the Nico Collins angle of this is the higher upside one. So if we went back to DeVito, actually, what does that get us to if we just play Baker, Nico? Then we need to find something cheaper. 4,300. That gets us like the Noah Brown play. Does this lineup look like $1 million? Very interesting. The part about the Giants that's interesting is like at 4K, what does Tommy DeVito really even need to give us? Like what was kind of nice about him when he played last year is he would still run. He had an 8 rushing game or 8 rush attempts game in there. He had a 10 rush attempt game in there. We can just get up to so much upside if we do that. And then we hope that Tampa Bay gets condensed on the running game, either one. And then we get a bomb from Mike Evans. I actually don't hate that. I think that's a really interesting block of points. Evans, White, Irving, DeVito, just that block of points. And then we try and back into the high totals of Kareem Hunt and Kelsey together. And then Nico Collins in there, which is kind of interesting. I want to look a little bit deeper at Nico, though. I've just been like a Nico Collins bull like this entire year leading up to it, that I might have some bias there. Is this Titans matchup, do we need to be scared of the Titans? Do we need to be scared? 7 targets last week. Obviously that 70 plus, I believe, yard touchdown called back. Wasn't on the field as much as we'd like to see. It's interesting. Tennessee's done pretty well against wide receiver ones. They just held Jefferson to 681 and 0. I don't love it. I don't love the I think I might have to back out on the Nico stuff, guys. I think he's fine, but I don't know if he's completely necessary. Can we play DK and Jackson Smith and Jigba? We can. That's kind of an interesting angle. Just play both the Seattle guys in that game. That's how we get access to it. I think we're kind of playing the angle, though, that game fails, right? We're kind of playing the angle that game fails. So how can we leverage? Where's the leverage from that game? So Arizona and Seattle, if that one is going to completely fail, which is kind of what we're playing here, the leverage is probably, I don't know. I don't know if there's a ton to like in that one. So if we get something in Detroit and Indy, I wish we got Amon-Ra for a little bit more of an ownership discount. That's the thing I'm struggling with. Take Kelsey out. Maybe then we have too much. Then we have too much salary. Kate Otten's still a good play. That's a lot of Tampa. Theo with Cutlets over Kelsey. But then we don't even need the salary, though. That's the problem. We don't need the salary to get there. Unless we took Rachaad White out and put in Achane. We could do that. Let's see where that leaves us. We can still play all the wide receivers we want at that point. We could get in like an Achane, Tyreek Hill mini. DeVito, Neighbors, bring back with Evans and Bucky. It just doesn't feel as unique to me. Am I crazy? What do you guys think? I'm not I'm not married to. I think this is probably still the direction we want to go. But if we did want to get in both running backs, that's still kind of like the unique part of this build that I like. Still feels like the unique part. We don't have to play Packers D. I think we could probably even make a really strong argument in favor of Vikings D, right? I still like Vikings D against Caleb Williams. That's like one of the biggest like mismatches at the line of scrimmage, right? This Bears offensive line is horrendous. So I think that's kind of interesting. Since we have all the salary in the world, we can get there. What else? What other directions could we go with this? We could jam in Nico Collins and Cortland Sutton the rest of the way if we wanted to. We could get in CeeDee Lamb and Cortland Sutton, Tyreek Hill and Cortland Sutton. Like that's where the optimals will drive you here. If we didn't play Rashad White and we were playing the angle that Mike Evans is going to take more of that target share away, we could. That gets us to like if we wanted to play like a Brian Robinson, still get in like a high upside Sutton Lamb, Sutton Tyreek, Sutton Jackson Smith and Jigba, something like that. What about this angle? So if we didn't play Rashad White, James Conner, Smith and Jigba mini, and then that leaves us with like Sutton basically. It's kind of an interesting angle if we wanted to play some of this Arizona Seattle game. It's kind of interesting. I don't hate it. Tyreek, bad idea playing two running backs on the same team? Maybe. This spot in particular, though, I do think both of them are going to be used enough to where it makes sense. Tyreek Hill is going to be under owned this week. What is Tyreek's ownership going to be? Didn't look that under owned to me. 15%? Maybe under owned, though, if that's the argument. Tracy Malik, Baker Evans. Huh. Giants can stop the run. We the G-men. Maybe the Baker angle is the one that we still need to keep exploring here. Maybe it's just Tracy on the other side. Maybe it's Baker, Evans, Bucky, and Tracy on the other side. That leaves us with not as much salary to work with, but I don't hate it. Can't really get neighbors in there though with that. I still like the idea of like no one wanting to play these quarterbacks, these 4K quarterbacks, and if we're playing this angle of it with Tampa Bay and Giants to kind of shoot out, I think this is the direction I would still want to go. I think the Vito and Tracy is probably not necessary. I kind of just like want to play the other side of this game with Tracy and then just stack up the Tampa Bay stuff. That's still the direction that makes the most sense in my head for that block of points. A cheap block of points, honestly. to hit, I think that still makes the most sense. And then we get Casey with the Hunt and Kelsey stuff. I still think you can make an argument that like one of the highest upside plays on the slate is still Amon-Ra St. Brown in an up-tempo game, right? I want to look at that a little bit deeper quickly. So Lions Colts, we don't have anything from that game yet. Amon-Ra obviously just goes crazy. What do we think of the Sun God in this spot? Is there anything that I'm missing on this? We need like one of those like double-digit target games again. Sam Laporta's back in, right? Yeah, he's back in. So that's a little bit of a knock, I would say. A lot of cover 3 for the Colts. We do love playing Amon-Ra against cover 3. We do like that. Goff at home against a lot of cover 3. Yeah, I don't hate it. What happens if we put Amon-Ra on this? 5,100 left. Addison, Worthy. Odunze at 4,800, kind of interesting. Gets our Vikings D. What is like our highest upside wide receiver there, you think? If we left it at 5,100. No one's going to play Addison. It's probably Odunze, right? The Odunze one-off. But against the Vikings D, I don't love that. Don't love it. If we change defense here, if we went to like Green Bay defense, that gets us to 5,700, which is significantly better. That gets us not Cortland Sutton, but that would get us Calvin Ridley against Houston. That would get us Jacoby Myers if we wanted it for a little bit cheaper. I don't know. I still think Vikings is a priority. Caleb Williams has still been a disaster. Xavier Worthy, did we just play all the Chiefs with no Mahomes? Oh, that would be an interesting block of points as well. Just hoping that all the points went through Kelsey, Xavier Worthy on a deep one, and then some touchdowns for Kareem Hunt. Interesting, that'd be an interesting block of points. I'm trying to think of blocks of points, right? So we're playing that this Arizona Seattle game fails, right? The one off that probably doesn't make as much sense is probably Amon-Ra in that type of scenario. But I do love like trying to get back into some Mahomes stuff is kind of interesting. Worthy's still running a ton of routes. His price is much better now than it was before. If we're just betting on the offense in general, though, right? Kind of interesting. I just can't unsee some of those like those D plays that he's just left on the table, you know? The Millie Maker had 7 lineups last week. The Chiefs players are going to be high owned. Well, Kelsey, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, how can we differentiate like some of the Chiefs guys? It's by playing on them with like a weird roster construction. This is a weird roster construction for sure. DeVito, basically DeVito naked with Evans, both Tampa running backs. So that's the game we're really looking at. And then we just need Kansas City to absolutely blow the doors off Carolina, which could happen. So we're betting on two main things there. We're betting on Amon-Ra to get there from like that perspective. Is there anything else that we could do better than Amon-Ra? I think he's still the high ceiling wide receiver in that up tempo game that we want. Maybe we end up really regretting not playing Nico, but I still feel pretty good about the Amon-Ra spot against cover 3. The Xavier Worthy one is like kind of like, how do we get a little bit different with the KC pieces? That's probably it, right? Because a lot of people are going to have Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce. Are many people going to have Xavier Worthy added to that on like, that's the only pieces of that game? So we get a bunch of dink and dunk up the field with Kelce. We get at least one touchdown for Kareem Hunt, and then we get some garbage time rush attempts, and then we get 1 or 2 chunk plays at 5K for Worthy. It's kind of an interesting thought experiment. Worthy at like sub 5%, still a decent, like if we're just looking at purely the ceiling guys in this game, it's interesting. Like, would we rather just try and find a way to get to Hopkins? I don't really like I think it's either Hopkins or Kelce. That's a really tough correlation, I think. Take Worthy out. Someone said that's my lineup. I find that really hard to believe. Wandale. A bunch of people actually said Worthy in the chat. That's interesting. Wandale just doesn't feel like the ceiling guy to me. So our blocks of points, I think we're betting on this Tampa Bay game. We're betting on DeVito to give us some rushing at 4K. Maybe he throws a touchdown, gets us like the 12 points, whatever we need there. We got the block of points in Tampa Bay. All right, I think this is where we're going to go. This is a very unique build. Again, first or last. Maybe it wins $1 million. Maybe we lose every cent. I'm okay with either one. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Sunday morning. This is always fun to kind of figure out what are some of like the fun types of rosters we can build. What are the positions that we want to go through and figure out what's optimal, what's not. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. If you didn't hear this earlier in the show, we're not going to do a Thanksgiving show. I'll be on the road that morning. But we'll be back on our normal Sunday show next week. And I'll see you guys then. Appreciate you. Talk soon.